What's up, Buck Doug with D&E in the Garage. If you watch our videos, you know that I blew a brake line in the back of my 2000 Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's the brake line that always goes in these things. Thankfully, brake lines in the Grand Cherokee and the WJ are stupid easy. They put the ABS system in a good place. They ran the lines way out in the open, so it's not a hard job, but there are some tricks that make it easier and will make it last. First things first, this guy right here. 9 times out of 10, if your brake line rotted through, you're not going to get it off of this piece cleanly. This is the soft line that goes from your brake line. It attaches to your A-arm and then goes on to your, this is where your brake lines for your axle break off of. Next thing you're going to need is some 3/16 inch brake line. Don't get stainless steel. It's not worth the trouble. It's super hard to bend. Just get the nickel copper. It's not going to be a problem. I like to get the pre-cut stuff. Pre-cut, pre-flared. It makes this a super easy job. All the supplies here were about $50. So you get the pre-cut, get it in 2 lengths, a 6-foot length and a 40-inch length. That's the easiest combination. Then obviously, since it's in 2 pieces, spend the $3 on the appropriate union. This union is a 3/8 by 24. This is how you will connect your 2 pieces once they're bent in under the Jeep. The next thing you're gonna need, and this drives me crazy, the WJ uses a metric bubble flare for the ABS unit. There are 2 types of flares in the world. This is a double flare. This is what all vehicles used to use, especially American vehicles. It goes up and then it goes in on the top. You see how it ducks in there? That's a double flare. What the WJ uses at the ABS unit is a bubble flare. So it flares out at the bottom just like the double does, but then it kind of domes up. The argument is that these are stronger. This is a European thing. Most of the time these are metric sizes. So they make a little coupler that goes on your 3/8 piece. These are super common, or 3/16 piece, and this will get you from your ABS unit back to the back axle. I'm going to leave the exact part numbers for both of these connections, the connection and the bubble flare, but if you want to take a look at them right now, you guys can go ahead and freeze frame on that, I suppose. Get a shot without the glare. As we're going to need, any auto parts store is going to have these. Alright, obviously you're going to need brake fluid. I'm not going to go over bleeding brakes in this video. Alright, here we are at the back axle. You're going to want to go ahead, give these guys a little spritz since we're trying to reuse them. These are 3/8. Highly recommend you get yourself a line wrench. Usually I'm a fan of using whatever tool is on hand, but since we're trying not to strip these or break them, you get it. And nice and easy. Oh, we got super lucky on that one. Let's see how lucky we are over here. Oh, now the whole line's going. Gonna give that one another second to soak. Think about its life choices and whether or not it wants to continue to exist as a brake line while this one comes right off. Now, there's a very good chance that yours are going to be, your hard line along the axle here is going to be just as crusty as your back line. If that's the case, check before you go to the parts store, because if that's the case, then you get the appropriate length of line. Pre-cut lines will work just fine here because they're both the same on either side. So, I'm going to argue with this dang line wrench here like an idiot. Alright, we got lucky on that one. Alright, looks like I'm going to be able to get this one if I just kind of hold it in its spot. A little back and forth might help break it loose, and then we're in business. Alright, your next obstacle is going to be this bolt up here. I think it's like a 9/16, which means it's probably actually a 14. This is the breather for your differential. That's what this hose coming out the top is. So we're going to just pop that guy loose. It's the breather for the diff, but it holds the brake line block in place. Oh yeah, there we go. You may want to spray these a couple days beforehand. You'll also likely not have this truss in your way, which means you could take the line off and maybe get a socket on it. I'm just going to do it this way. I guess it should be noted that this is going to be the same whether you have the Dana 35 or the Dana 44A. People are going to ask, since we're messing with the diff, Now seems like as good a time as any to point out that this is why you lift your Jeep and do a tank tuck on your WJ. I'm not on jack stands, I'm not up on ramps, and I got all the room in the world. I mean, I could take a nap down here if I had a mind to. There we go. So now this guy is liberated. I'd actually cut the other end of mine. You'll probably end up having to do the same. And we're just gonna leave that guy for now, like that. All right, let's go get our lines. This is the old brake line, most of it anyway. I cut the ends off to take to the parts store with me. You can see it's got many, many bends. To be completely honest, they're just not necessary. Here's what you're gonna wanna do. Come up here to the business end of your Jeep. Move your airbox aside. For some of us, that's easier than others. All right, for freak's sake, the battery died, so I'm not 100% sure what you guys saw. So, to recap, this front it's amateur hour. Oh my God. This front foremost on the left side port in your ABS unit is the one you want for your rear line that goes along the frame. You're gonna put the bubble flare piece in first because it's much easier to thread that in without it. That's a 9/16, which means it's probably really a 14 as it's metric. You don't have to use a line wrench on this part, but if you have them out, you might as well. All right, this is the key. This is what everybody goes crazy over, is the bends. Put a very generic bend in your short piece, the 40 inch piece. Wing it down there, get it into the bubble flare fitting, and then start bending it before you tighten it all the way down to get it out of the way. I like to just kind of go over and around and down and then you're done. All right, then take your 3/8 and tighten this guy down. All you got to do is make sure it's not touching anything hot. There are manifolds over there, but you'd have to be way off with your bends to be anywhere near the manifold. And then we're gonna go underneath and fit it a little better. All right, so get this guy nice and tight. All right, if you try to gaze through the mud and the blood and the beer down here, you see here's our little brake line coming down. We're just gonna give it some nice gentle bends. This stuff's awesome. It bends no problem at all. Just to get it to go towards the frame rail over here. If you wanted to, I suppose you could even get it in this little bracket right here. I'm not super worried about that. Wow, my front lines are about to go too. They could use some attention, so maybe there'll be a video on front lines. That goes right in there, like that. Now screw it. All right, let's just put this union on. I think it's gonna be 12 on here. It's 3/8 on the back. Just like that. Bend this guy back again if you want to try to get him in there. I don't think it's gonna go. It doesn't matter. This Jeep's got 112,000 miles, almost 20 years old. So we're sort of just doing the best we can. All right, start your longer line from the back. WJs are so friggin' easy. You literally have to go over the axle and over the transmission cross member up there. And that's it. All right, so get that like that. Now once you come over the transmission cross member, come in. I know my hand's in the way, but it's a pretty simple concept. You're gonna screw it into the junction there. There's not a ton of ways to mess that up. Now the reason I like using the two pieces and I spend the extra $2 on the junction is that you're not dealing with a 10-foot piece trying to bend it up in there. It's just easier this way. I mean, this is taking me, honestly, the filming is oh, I'm gonna need an open-ended wrench now. The filming is what's taking this the long time. You know, I'd have been done in like 15 minutes. It makes it so super easy. And then once this is in, we just go back and try to bend it along the frame a little bit, keep it away from anything spinning or hot. Thankfully the exhaust is on the other side. Now there are plenty of these stock connectors that you're gonna pull your old brake line out. They also have your fuel line in them. If you can get them into there, that's great. I'd say try to get it into at least one on either side of your transmission cross member. Transfer case cross member, whatever, and they just pop in if you can. One on either side, and you'll be in good shape. All right, now's as good a time as any to get our soft line back on. I should mention that the soft line bolts to the A-arm, and it also bolts to the body. I didn't have mine bolted to the A-arm because of my lift, and I didn't have it bolted to the body because it rotted right off. But you will also have to contend with those. They don't I mean, they're either rotted off and gone or whatever. If you have a lift, there's a good chance yours is already unbolted from the A-arm. And if not, go ahead and bolt it back or don't, it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna end up disconnecting the hose from the breather. It's just gonna make it easier to get this back in. And again, if you don't have a truss, I'm pretty sure you can get a deep socket on this if you really wanted to. Make sure you put this back in though. You don't want a bunch of water and junk banging around in your differential. What's going on here? Put our breather back. Mint. Get our lines back in. Alright, you're going to want to use a line wrench to tighten these down, but you're going to want to use an open-ended wrench to get them snugged in, because trying to use a line wrench a quarter of a turn at a time will literally drive you insane. Yep, insane. Good gravy. I've been using line wrenches all day. I was arguing with the Avalanche earlier. It's brakes. Alright, this is getting there. Up and over. At this point, bolt it to your A-arm if applicable. Let's go and connect this bad boy. Alrighty, as you can see, the 10 feet brings us out exactly where we want to be. Here's our soft line. This right here would be the bracket where you would mount it to. I think that's like a 13. Mine's rusted back to Mother Nature a long time ago. So I am going to connect these two and then employ man's greatest invention, the zip tie, to get where I'm going. Thankfully, there is a small 5/8 threaded bit on here so that if you're doing it the hack way like me, where you don't have the bracket anymore, you still have an option to get it locked on there. Alright, now try to get it. I think this connector's too far gone. Go like that, and I am going to zip tie this whole thing. Is that enough flex? Yeah, right to here. Now I'm doing this on a 3-inch lifted, actually 3.5 inch in the rear, lifted, though on stock suspension, which has to change. If you're doing this on your daily that's not lifted, bolt it to the A-arm. A-arm bolts are right here, that one and that one. There's some little screws that come out, and this goes in there. Mine doesn't even reach because of the lift and the truss and all that. Yours will if you're doing this on a stock or maybe a 2-inch lifted Jeep. By the time you get to 3.5, things are far enough out of spec that they don't make any sense anymore. If you skipped a bunch of the stock connectors like I did here, you may want to go back with some zip ties and zip tie your brake line to the fuel lines. Nothing tight, just to keep it from banging, or God forbid if you're wheeling it or just whatever, get it caught on something. I only have these goofy tabbed ones right now. Perfect. Nice and sharp for the next time I'm down here. If you're not using the stock attachment points, the key is wherever your hard line ends, you want to secure it. You don't want to like secure it here and leave this able to move. You need this to be nice and hard. Your hard line will, I mean, just like anything else, you keep bending it back and forth, it'll break. So get whatever collection of zip ties or whatever else you need to make sure. I think going right around this mount here, I'm gonna have to get another zip tie. That'll be good for me because then the hard line's not gonna move, the soft line will do all the movement. All right, here's your final product from the junction up there, coming back here. Really the only bend you do down below is around the transfer case transmission cross member there, all the way straight, right to the back there. Copious amounts of zip ties will get her done. Again, if you are running a stock Jeep, you can just bolt that right back onto there and you'll be in good shape. Alrighty, you guys dusty? Sorry, it is muddy under Willie. Willie doesn't get nearly the attention he should, but we're gonna try to change that in 2020. 2020 is gonna be the year of Willie. Anyway, me and Uncle Jerry have been outside all day arguing with this heap and the Avalanche, which is the real heap. If that video hasn't come out yet, tell you what. Anyway, this is done. Just bleed your brakes, go about your business, check all those unions for about a week afterwards. I like to get under there every night when I get home and just make sure all the places, nothing came loose, isn't leaking, is moving, rubbing, anything like that. All right. If you got any questions on this, by all means, leave us a comment down there in the squawk box. It's pretty simple, but this will work for your 4-liter and your 4.7. It'll work for the Dana 35 and the Dana 44A, any WJ, 99 to 04. The ZJs are pretty darn similar. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Consider checking us out on Patreon, Etsy, and Teespring. Eric just redid the Uncle Jerry sweatshirt. We got some pretty cool ugly Christmas sweaters. There's a Jeep one and an Avalanche one on there, so maybe go check that stuff out if you'd like to support the channel. If not, that's cool. Just leave us a comment down there. Say hey. Maybe tell me where you guys are Jeeping from. I always love to hear about it. What was the one we got the other day? Saudi Arabia. Somebody has a WJ, one of our viewers, in Saudi Arabia. I don't know about y'all, but I just don't think about WJs when I think about Saudi Arabia, right? Pretty crazy. Lots of Australia, bunch of good Canadians. So I dig it. I like hearing from you guys, all right? As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.